Hey guys, Merry Meet. This is Anastasia on Fire, and this is my week 8 video for the YouTube Pagan Challenge. This week's subject is matron and patron deities. Do you have them? How did you find them? Things like that. This may turn into a lengthy video. I'm going to try to stay on topic as much as possible and make it quick. I knew as soon as I rediscovered my path that I wanted a matron goddess. That was what kind of drew me back to paganism. I find, I should say, it's not necessarily a past tense thing. I find so much of our society is so geared towards that patriarchal, masculine energy. And although I myself identify as very masculine in my persona, in my personality, and so on, I really struggle with that when it comes to my spiritual path. So I was really drawn to the idea of worshiping the divine feminine. When I first approached this, I thought, I'm going to look for a goddess. I know I want one. I know I want to be able to call her by name. I want to start building that relationship. Because that is really how I view it. It's a relationship. It is, when you're working with the goddess, it very well could be an energy within, but you are building it up. I do also see, I can't discount that gods and goddesses are beings or energies as well without, because I feel that energy when my god or goddess come into the room, so to speak. I feel them, and that there has to be something to that, and I'm still kind of working on that, but I believe that they inspire within, but they are also without, if that makes sense. And when I first started, I wanted to know who my goddess was, so I went on Google. And I was really focusing on love at this point. I wanted to help with my self-love and really work on that. I wanted to help manifest some positivity and love in my relationship. I wanted to help with love within the family. Also help with a more nurturing and motherly love with my daughter, because that was a thing. And yeah, so that was kind of where I started from. And I found a Celtic love goddess. I think she's more attributed or more seen as a beauty goddess, but some do worship her for love, according to a few sites that I found, because that was how deep I dug. And she was a Celtic goddess by the name of Clina. And I believe she was a fairy queen. And she was known, she has this beautiful love story about how she fell in love with this mortal. And she was set to abandon her divinity, so to speak, and left her realm of the Fae to be with this human. And long story short, I've read some stories where she dies, some stories where he dies, some stories where they both die. The point is, she was willing to give up her divinity, and it ended up being for naught. She didn't achieve what she wanted in the end. Now, funny thing that I should choose her to help me with love in hindsight, but the reality was, it worked. I did build a relationship with her. I did build a kinship with her, and the workings I did with her actually connected. They actually worked. It was a thing, and it really was such a crucial time in my path, because as many of you know, when you start out on your spiritual path, especially one that can be as interactive as a pagan or a witch one, you can have so much self-doubt. You know, am I really meant for this? Is this really where I'm supposed to be? You know, am I, the thought occurred to me several times, am I even magical? And if it wasn't for my working with Klina, I don't know that I would have come out the other end as positively as I did. After a while, she kind of went away. She helped me in a very crucial time, and I felt it was, there are those deities that come into your life and out of your life. They're here to help you through something. Once you achieve it, they move on. And I feel like that was definitely her energy. I do have some incense that I made in her honor, for aiding me, especially with my relationship. It really helped me with that. She really helped me with that, I should say. And it wasn't a self-gain, it was more just looking at it from different perspectives and gaining more acceptance for myself. And through that, I can reach better, not better, but I can reach a more solid foundation with my guy, you know. And that was kind of the workings that I did with her, and it really served as a platform for me. Definitely helped with self-confidence. And after we parted ways, I still do burn incense for her from time to time just to thank her. But I was ready. Okay, I worked in that with the goddess in the abstract after that, and I was totally fine. I felt good. And then I felt like, you know, I'm ready for the next step. I want to know who our matron goddess is. And before I looked for one, and it was just kind of a passing by kinship. It wasn't a lifetime type of a bond, or even a long-term bond. So I thought, you know, I'm not going to look. This time I am going to let the universe reveal to me who my matron goddess is. So I meditated, and I prayed, and I made incense, and I made dream pillows, and I made amulets, and offered up to the universe things, and it just, nothing, blackness. I thought for sure it was Freya. Nope. Thought for sure, you know, gee, maybe it's Bridget. Nope. Just nothing. And then I had a dream one night, and it wasn't a goddess. It was a god. Was it ever a god? And it was Cernunnos. And in this dream, he claimed me as his student, his pupil, and follower. And I'm not gonna get too in depth on the dream, just because it's kind of a personal deal, but it felt in a way like nothing. It felt so real and so tangible. And I've had a few other dreams since then with him involved, and all of them have felt that way. As I said before, I feel like the divine is within as well as without. When I am working with him, I feel him in the room, and the energy is palpable. It is charged. He can be very active and very strong and very assertive. He can also be very nurturing and very gentle and very patient and still. And regardless of how he comes across, his energy is always the same. It's always this strong and active energy, but it's channeled differently, dependent on what the message is or what we're working on, so to speak. And yeah, he's very much about balance. He's very much about understanding yourself. There's a phrase of he is another name for Cernunnos, or another name that I've heard in reference to him aside from the horned god, is Hern the hunter, and he is both hunter and hunted. And because of that, he's a god of life. He's a god of fertility and virility, but he is also a god of the underworld, and he shepherds souls to the land beyond. And so he is an extreme source of balance and understanding the balance within yourself. And for me also, self-confidence and self-worth. And yeah. It's kind of funny to me. I wanted to know my matron goddess so desperately because I've heard and I've seen other pagans talk about their goddesses and call them mother and have this love and admiration and this kinship with them that is just insane in the best possible way. And I wanted that so desperately. And I found that in the god. I found that in Cernunnos. And he was and is nurturing as nothing else. And he is patient. And he is gentle and kind and understanding. He can be very blunt. He can be very powerful and very assertive. But for the most part, how I thought the goddess would be, and my goddess would be, really was how he ended up actually being. And it really taught me an amazing lesson in gender roles and gender assigning. And he continues to work within me on that, because although I like to think I'm pretty open-minded and I understand things, there's still things in society that I just look at and go, wait, what? I don't get this. And he's going to, okay, you need to breathe and understand the way everything works in your mind is not how the rest of the world works. So yeah, just, I guess that's one thing I do want to say about a patron. And I've even heard people who have taken patrons, goddesses as patrons. Was it Lovely Little Witch? I could be wrong on that. She took Aphrodite as her patron because that's how she identified. She really didn't jive with male energy per se, but she did find and see a lot of masculine energy in and of Aphrodite, and she connected with that and took Aphrodite as her patron. And I think that's amazing, and I think that's awesome, and that is the ultimate point, is whatever you resonate with, that's what you should go with. Whatever you jive with, that's where your heart is, that's where your soul is, that's what you should follow. I was not expecting a god to come through to me ever in my practice. I was expecting to have a matron goddess, and that was it, and I was good with that. And instead he came through and ended up being that nurturing and encouraging and loving energy that I was seeking so desperately. So always keep an open mind when it comes to that. Gender roles really, I don't think, have that huge of a place. And again, this is just my point of view. By no means is this gospel. By no means is this something anyone else believes. It's just me. I mean, certainly if you believe, I'm sure there probably are people that think this way too, and I kind of hope, otherwise I sound crazy. But my point is, I in no way am saying this is how it has to be, or this is how it is. This is how it is for me. Simple as that. Then my matron goddess. A few months later, I had another dream. Dreams seem to be a thing for me. And I was running from this dark energy, this dark spirit. And I wasn't necessarily scared, but I knew it was bad news and I needed to get away. And suddenly we both fell through the floor of this house that we were in. And it was fire and brimstone, Christianized version of hell. And there was this cloaked figure, and from what I could see, it was skeletal. I could only see half of the figure, and it was a skeleton in a cloak. And the skeleton pushed out its hand, and a chain came through its hand and impaled the specter that had been chasing me. And then the skeleton turned towards me, and I had that quick moment of, oh crap, I'm gonna die. And quickly, and again, I could only still see half of it, but it was still skeletal. And I just went, oh, wait, you're hell. Okay. And I woke up. And I did research, and I'm like, well, hell, that's the Norse goddess of the dead, of the underworld. And to be honest, the most I heard about her was from Hulk versus Thor cartoon that I had. And that was the comic version. I think Hela is how she's portrayed there, and Hela is another name for hell. But yeah, that was kind of, that's all I knew was this cartoon. And I studied her the next day and was like, okay, are you really revealing yourself to me? And so many things matched. So many things connected. And I read quite a few people's perspectives where she was not a goddess to really go to, at least not as a first-time goddess. She should be, you should be guarded. She's not necessarily an easy goddess to work with. And I actually got quite the opposite feeling from her. She has taught me an enormous amount about acceptance, self-acceptance, acceptance of others, looking at things through other people's perspectives, not taking things for granted, understanding, regardless on your view of the afterlife and reincarnation, all that jazz, this is our one life experience that is this. So live it up, do it. But also, she's very much about honor and do the right thing, not the easy thing. If you make an oath, you best be keeping it. Things like that. I could go on and on about her. Knowing her and establishing my relationship with her has been one of the most rewarding yet difficult things, because half of her is, at least from what I've experienced, is half skeletal, and the other half is maiden. She was born half in life, half in death. She is half maiden, half crone. And when we first worked together, it was very much maiden energy. It was all very positive, very fluffy bunny and warm fuzzies and all that jazz. And as of late, it's been crone. Just straight up hardcore crone energy. And really teaching me lessons through destruction. And a lot of tests. At one point, I almost thought, oh crap, is this the Morrigan? Because I've read so much about how she tests her followers. I hadn't really read that of hell, and no, well, it was hell, or at least it wasn't the Morrigan, I know. But it's when it gets, I find this true of my spiritual path period, when it is the most difficult, when it is the hardest to work through, the greatest rewards come from it. So, Hell is my matron. Cernunnos is my patron. I just dedicated myself to both of them and in bulk last month. And oddly enough, just a little bit further about goddesses that I work with and such, I do see them as my matron and patron, but then very recently I had a Reiki healing, and or at least started to. It seems like it's going to take a few sessions. And ever since then, Hecate has been popping up all over, and symbols of her have been popping up all over. And then last night had yet another dream, and it was a lucid dream. Like, I was in the dream going, I'm dreaming, and I could even visualize in my dream, okay, this is how I look right now. I'm laying on the bed, this is exactly how I look. And I could see myself dreaming, but I don't think I've never astral projected as far as I know. And I was still in my dream world, so I don't know, it was just weird. But it was lucid. I had that moment in my dream. I'm dreaming. I can see myself sleeping. That's a thing. But in this dream, I continued with the dream experience, and I was in this war in the desert in an abandoned cantina, so very Tatooine, very Star Wars. And I had this moment of, I need to call out to my goddess for help. And when I called out, the name Hecate came out. And in my dream, I even went, I don't work with Hecate, I work with hell. Why did I just call for Hecate? That doesn't make sense. And oddly enough, whatever I was needing happened in my dream. That it came to fruition, it manifested. And I woke up soon after that, and I just went, that's weird. So of course I asked a few friends. I put it up on Facebook to see, because there's far wiser witches out there than me, and I will take all the help I can get. And all of them kind of say, you know, hey, maybe she's probably reaching out to you. Do your research. My friend Elizabeth Crystalhawk, who actually did the Reiki healing on me, was like, dude, seriously. She is all about everything you're going through right now. You need to do some research. So I don't know necessarily what this means. Part of me, because they are so, Hel and Hecate are so connected in like, they have a lot of similarities. The thought crossed my mind, crap, have I been working with Hecate this whole time and I've been mistaking her for Hel, and I really don't think that's it. But it's kind of thrown me for a loop, because in my path I always thought I would have a matron goddess. I would work with one goddess. I would work with, and then the fact that I had even a god to work with through me, and now I've got another goddess that seems to be calling out to me, and I'm not going to say no, because I don't know if a divine entity reaches out, and divine entity, that was a weird wording. If the divine reaches out to you, I think you should accept it, or at least I would. And it's a positive energy I'm getting off of this. It's just thrown me for a loop, and I think to that end, it just proves even more, you can think your path is this. You can think, this is where I'm at, this is where I'm going. No. Not necessarily. I've heard of witches who, I'm going to work with all different kinds of deities and all different, and then all of a sudden, bam, nope, you got one. I have heard of witches who, I'm going to work with an earth goddess, and then bam, you get a warrior goddess, or a death goddess, you know. I think my matron and my patron, and my path have taught me that most. Just things happen as they're supposed to happen. When something spiritual comes along, and it's from the divine, there's really not a whole hell of a lot you can do to change it. You just kind of have to go with the flow and just say, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. I think there are some things, obviously, we do have control over. We can manifest. We can work on this. I by no means do you have to wait for the universe to reveal who the deity you're supposed to work with is. You can go on to, the internet. You can get books, go to the library, do your research, see who you resonate with. Open yourself up, meditate, try to communicate and see if you get an answer. I think there are no wrong ways to go about it. Whatever resonates with you, do it. For me, because I'm pig-headed the way I am, and I don't, and because I had the experience I had when I chose the goddess, I have decided to open myself up and let the pieces fall where they may. But in doing that, I think I've learned so much more about myself, so much more than I could have if I said, nope, I'm going to work with Athena, and that is my bag. That's who I'm working with. I just, my personal path has been one from beginning to end about letting go of control and letting the universe take me where it needs me to be, where I'm supposed to be. It's about listening to nature for me and going with that, as opposed to trying to force something. And yeah, so I just realized I'm kind of rambling here. So yes, I do have a matron, Hell. I do have a patron, Cernunnos. And now I might be expanding my tribe a little bit to include Hecate. I'm not sure where that journey will lead me, but that is kind of where I stand right now when it comes to gods and goddesses. I hope you enjoyed this video. I see I'm approaching 30 minutes, so I apologize that it's became a rambling one. I felt compelled to include the story about Clina and how I found Cernunnos and how I found Hell, and now Hecate making an appearance, and perhaps it being more, because again, a lot of her symbols are things I've been attracted to my whole life. So I need to research, and I need to meditate and see what happens. So yeah, so that's where this video stands. I hope you liked it. Please like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. Otherwise, I really have at least 2 more videos I want to make and get up soon, and I don't know if I'm going to have time this week. I'm going to try desperately. Thanks as always for watching. It means a ton, and I hope everyone has a good one. Blessed be as always. Bye.